Hello, welcome to the FanDuel Punch Out. I am Bigidly42, joined here by Christopher Ruckus at Space Jam 23 DFS. We're talking about all of tonight's action on FanDuel. We got ourselves a nice big slate of games tonight. Couple aces on the mound, but pitching in general not looking particularly pretty. So we're going to go ahead and dive into it here. We looked into some deep numbers like we always do. Try to find you guys some values, some guys who think they'll be under-owned, over-owned. All that great stuff. So you ready to get things going with some mediocre pitching here, Chris?
Yeah, let's talk mediocre pitching right now.
All right. Well, we'll start at the top where it's not a mediocre pitcher. Zach Greinke, $10,100. He's a sizable favorite at Milwaukee. His strikeout rate's really far down this year, just 21%, but he's been very good. He's also been the fortunate benefactor of getting a win each of his last 4 starts, so that always plays well. And, obviously, the Los Angeles facing off against a righty. Again, they're the number one offense in the league against righties. Matt Garza, equally generous to lefties and righties. So you like to think he's in a good spot for a win. And if you're paying up for a cash game pitcher, it almost has to be Greinke despite being on the road.
Yeah, I mean Greinke's on the road. The only thing I don't like about Greinke is he's 10.1K against the Brewers on the road tonight. I mean, obviously we have to talk about Strasburg at home. He's 9.5K. First or second largest favorite on the board tonight. I mean, that price tag isn't bad. He's at home against the Marlins. The other pitcher we're talking about. Oh, disclaimer: there is some weather concerns in Washington, so you got to check that. The other pitcher we're looking at, Andrew Kashner.
Yep.
I mean, he's been pitching well, 8.7K, good discount against the Giants. You can't fault that against Vogelsong tonight. They should get some. He should get some run support. So those are probably, cash game options. That's really all I'm even considering.
Yeah, and I like the Cashner call. He's the guy that I'm a big fan of, and I think I'll be getting into quite a few of my lineups. And that line at just 7 is the lowest total of the night. Philly and Atlanta also 7. Miami, Washington also 7. So you have a couple low totals, but I'm with you there. You got a pitcher's ballpark, one of the better ones in the game. And, you got a pitcher who's striking out almost 27% of batters, keeping the ball on the ground about 50%. So a lot of things go on for Andrew Kashner. And, you throw in the fact that the Giants are right around league average against righties. He's in a pretty fine spot. Shelby Miller's a guy that people are going to be looking at a lot because the Phillies have been terrible. Coming off his best performance of the season against the Reds last time out. Still concerns with his walk rate like there was before. Over 10%. He's walked at least 2 batters in every start this year. So, I mean, you like the matchup against the Phillies, obviously. They're the worst team in the league against righties. But, I mean, if it's going to be a cash game, I don't trust Shelby Miller. I mean, if he keeps walking guys, it's going to be tough for me to roster Shelby Miller outside of a tournament.
Yeah, no, I mean, if we're talking tournaments, I'm looking at pricing right now on FanDuel. DraftKings isn't so fair, but I did talk about. I mean, Danny Salazar's a stud. Guy can strike some people out. Obviously, he's against the Royals. Obviously, this is GPP play only, but he's 7.7K. Last time around against the Royals, 29th, he got 7 Ks, put up 11 Ks against the Tigers. Obviously, Tigers can hit the ball. I don't mind him as a GPP play, especially at that price. I mean, when I'm looking at Shane Green, 200 cheaper than him, Rick Porcello and Drew Smiley, more expensive than him. I mean, Salazar's upside, I get it's Kansas, but still, GPP play, I don't mind it because of his price.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to be one of the highest upside GPP plays, maybe the highest on the board, honestly. I mean, 35% strikeout rate so far this year. Hasn't done a great job keeping the ball on the ground and has gotten hit hard by righties. But like you said, I mean, around that price tag, no one has even close to the upside that Salazar does. So I like that call a lot. Drew Smiley's an interesting one for me. Boston's at 20th in the league against lefties so far this year, and he just came off a really nice game. 4 hits, 1 walk, 10 Ks against the Yankees. Did give up a couple solo homers. But, I mean, that's the Yankees team that has one of the lowest strikeout rates in the league. And had himself a nice game, 5 Ks against Boston in Tampa. Or, I'm sorry, I'm looking at last year's numbers. I scooted down too far. But either way, coming off a big performance there. Strikeout rate obviously not going to maintain where it is. He's only made 2 starts so far. But I think he's an interesting tournament play against Boston because I know a lot of people don't like to target them, and I don't either, but they haven't been particularly good against lefties so far this year. Outside of that, Garrett Richards against Seattle is another guy that I'm looking at, but that's about it for me tonight.
Yeah.
All right, moving on here to catcher, where said it yesterday, say it all the time, Stephen Vogt finally priced close to where he should be at least, at $3,500 tonight. facing off against Trevor May, who I consider a little bit above average pitcher. I don't think he's that bad of a pitcher, but at the same time, Stephen Vogt's on fire. 5 hits in his last 2 games, 3 homers, 9 RBIs. I mean, $3,500 tonight. He's going to be a popular play, and he should be. You got Evan Gattis against a bad lefty, and Wandy Rodriguez, $3,800. He's got 4 homers in his last 4 games. So, I mean, if you're looking for upside, you look no further than Gattis and Vogt right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually looking at catcher price tags. There's this 3K to 3.8K price range, but there's just so many. I mean, if we're going below 3K tonight, Pierzynski against Billingsley, he's 2.7K. And then my other cheap catcher, Grandal against Garza. I mean, he's 2.6K. If you're not going that low, I mean, Vogt is 3.5. Even Vmar, he's 3.2. Don't love him. Gaddis, 3.8. Derek Norris against Vogelsong tonight, 3.2K as well. Those guys are all in play. I mean, catcher, it's going to be a toss-up, and it's probably going to win you or lose you some games tonight. This is where you have to take some time and think, okay, who's going to be the highest owned catcher? Because Vogt is the same exact price as Buster Posey. He's a little bit cheaper than Gaddis, but he's also more expensive than Derek Norris. So you've got to take some time tonight and make your decision on who's going to be. Look at ownership, what you expect, team totals. Catcher's very important because I see 5 players that I could comfortably play tonight at catcher.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And, good call on Derek Norris there. I mean, it's been a rough go of things for Ryan Vogelsong so far. He's been worse against lefties than righties, but at the same time, I mean, he's given up a ton of hard contact. He's already given up 8 homers on the year. So, yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, there's a plethora of catcher options tonight on this big slate, so I don't mind a lot of these guys. Paul Goldschmidt, like he was yesterday, still sitting at $6,100 in his matchup at Colorado. Obviously makes him a GPP-only play, but in a fine spot against a bad lefty in Tyler Matzik who walks too many guys. Strikeout rate's low. He's a contact pitcher when he's even in the strike zone, so I don't mind him at all. You've got Anthony Rizzo and a lefty-lefty, but we know he's got power against lefties. Going up against Tyler Lyons, the young guy, just pitched 36 innings last year. This is going to be his first start of this season, so I think that's an interesting play. You've got Joey Votto, another guy in a lefty-lefty matchup, but against a bad lefty, if you want to go that route.
My turn. This is absurd. I can't believe I'm seeing this right now. I'm angry. Make it stop. Jose Abreu is 3.6K tonight.
Yep.
Against Shane Green. I mean, Jose Abreu is 3.6K. One thing I love to do when I'm looking at sites is where they're priced amongst the other major sites. So yeah, FanDuel Punchout, their competitor is DraftKings. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's the 5th most expensive first baseman tonight on DK. I mean, on FanDuel. I mean, you've got to scroll. You got to scroll to go find him. Eric
You should
Hosmer,
never be scrolling for Jose Abreu.
No, you should be looking at Paul Goldschmidt, Miggy, Jose Abreu should all be in your clear sight. He is way too cheap. If you take Eric Hosmer at the same price as him, get off. Stop playing fantasy sports. If you take any of these players, I love Jose Abreu tonight on FanDuel, 3.6K. The guy mashes any handed pitching. I don't care who's pitching. Jose Abreu is a great play on FanDuel tonight.
Yeah, I certainly cannot disagree with you there. Ike Davis still at the minimum against a righty. He's not a bad play. If you want a cheap upside play for a GPP, Chris Carter against a bad lefty. Once again, picking on Wandy Rodriguez there. He's in a fine spot. And then the other guy I'm going to throw out, see if you have anyone else, is Matt Adams against Kyle Hendricks, a righty. He's got 4 multi-hit games in his last 6. Got some power. At 3K, I don't mind him as a cash game play tonight.
No, I mean, my last play, I find I talk about him way too much. I don't know why. Frederick Freeman III against Chad Billingsley tonight.
Is he really the third?
I don't know, but his name's Freddie Freeman, so it must be Frederick Freeman III.
That's awesome.
So 3.5K against Billingsley. I mean, that's a steal for him. He's a much better player than 3.5K. I mean, it's just he's a better player. So I do like him as well. Probably pushing over to GPPs because if I'm paying anywhere near that, it's going to Abreu.
Yeah, absolutely. And moving on to second base, if you're tired of hearing things we say all the time, go ahead and skip this one. Jose Altuve, as you notice, we're picking on Wandy Rodriguez with these Houston bats. We know the Houston bats like to mash lefties. They're up to 11th in the league. Jose Altuve is just incredible against both hands of pitchers, especially lefties. I mean, if you can afford him, get him in your lineups at 4,800 tonight. If you're not paying up for a guy like Zach Greinke, it shouldn't be too hard. There's a lot of values we've already pointed out, more to come as well. So if you're not a believer in Steven Strasburg, D. Gordon is still absolutely in fuego right now. The guy has 4 steals in his last 3 games, 4 walks, 5 runs, 7 hits. He's just getting on base. He's stealing. He's scoring runs. He's $1,000 less than Jose Altuve. So if you're not playing Strasburg, I think he's a fine pivot down that direction. And then once again, you got Jason Kipnis. He is a lefty-lefty matchup, yes, but Jason Vargas is horrible against lefties. Almost a 500 WOBA allowed. Kipnis 8 hits in his last 3 games. I don't mind him. He's a tournament play for me, though, at 3,600.
Okay, so second base tonight. Yeah, Altuve's great, 4.8K leading off. D. Gordon, 3.8K. We've got some pricing we need to take advantage of. So Brian Dozier, 3.3K. The Twins are heating up. Brian Dozier's heating up. He's playing very well right now. He's seeing the ball well. I like Dozier against Chavez. Neil Walker, 2.7K. I know I'm a Neil Walker. Like, I call myself a homer, but I've never been to Pittsburgh in my whole life. So
You're not missing much.
I'm just a Neil Walker fan. Like Neil Walker. Also, Dustin Pedroia, 2.9K. It's a little too cheap for Mr. Pedroia. And then finally, Devin Travis, 3.7K against Pineda. No one's going to play him. The kid is, as Justin calls it, he's giving Spanish lessons today, in fuego, is Devin Travis, man. He's been smacking the ball around at 3.7K. No one's going to be on him in a GPP. I love him for a GPP.
Yeah, and I mean, he should be batting leadoff again. If not that, then batting second. And you can always, of course, consider Robbie Cano. He's cheap. Hasn't been playing particularly well this season, but 3,500 still seems a little bit too cheap for him. And we might have to mention Aaron Hill if that game gets in tonight. Got postponed yesterday, 2.9K. Should be batting right around 6th against Tyler Matzik. Get yourself some cheap Coors exposure if that game's going. All right, moving on here to third base, where we've got Matt Carpenter, of course, at the top. He had a couple offers recently, which is unlike him, but obviously that's going to happen with any player. 4,300, he still makes for one of your top options most nights at third base. Nice cash game play, but 4,300, don't think I'll be necessarily paying that. The tournament play at 4,300, of course, Nolan Arenado there, absolutely on fire. We'll see if he cooled off a little bit after getting the day off yesterday now. But a couple other guys that are interesting. Todd Frazier has a ton of power against lefties. Jeff Locke has been solid so far this year. He's a good guy keeping the ball ground. One of the better ground ball pitchers in the game right now. But Reds have the second highest team ISO against lefties. Jeff Locke, on the other hand, has not allowed a home run yet this year. We were talking before the show. Something's got to give here. So either Locke's going to mow down the Reds or they're going to send 1 yard. Obviously, no guarantee it's one of those two, but I tend to think something's going to happen on one of the two sides, and I like a couple of the Reds' power bats here, the righties especially.
Yeah, no, agree with you there. Looking at it, I'm going to be your neighborhood take advantage of bad pricing. So starting right off the bat, I think Chris Bryant at 3.5K is a pretty nice value right there. Yep. Also, you go down, I'm scrolling way too long, and this guy made me more money last year in MLB in a matter of 2 weeks than any other player. Josh Harrison leading off against Michael Lorenzen, 2.5K. I mean, the guy could steal, but he's the most aggressive, fun player to watch. He swings for the fences. He gets on base. If he walks, he wants to turn it into a triple. He steals bases. I know he hasn't had that great start of the season so far. You know, I think he's priced incorrectly on FanDuel. I mean, DK's got him at 4.2K. FanDuel's got him at 2.5K. That's a pricing mistake, I think, on FanDuel's behalf. Michael Lorenzen is not scary. Every time I hear his name, I think about Jake Lorenzen, old quarterback for the Wildcats, and they're probably similar at their ability to pitch. Yeah. So I'm on Josh Harrison, 2.5K leading off. I mean, we call him a punt. He's a punt, 2.5K. He's got a little bit more talent than a 2.5K punt, say Darren Ruff at 2.4K.
Yeah, and he's going up against a pitcher making his second career start who wasn't particularly good in his first start. Mike Moustakas, I think we need to mention if you're not playing Salazar, 2.8K batting second in that potent offense. certainly got to mention him. But anyone else you're looking at? Because that's about it for me at third.
No, that's about it. Shortstop.
All right, Tulo. We talked about him last night. He's 5,100. He's going against an okay righty. Josh Collminger's actually been pretty good so far this season. Obviously not playing pitchers in Coors Field anyway, but Tulo at 5,100, if you can afford him, I guess. I think I'm going to reserve him for stacks tonight. But then you got some really cheap guys. We saw the tentative lineup last night with Arizona. You assume it's probably going to be the same. Chris Owings was not in it. If he is in it at 2,800, I don't mind him. You've got Jimmy Rollins, who's got a favorable lineup spot. That's about all he has right now. 2.6K. 0 for his last 10 over last 2 games. So, woof for him right there. But I guess he's not a bad play considering the lineup is in a good spot. Andrelton Simmons, if he's batting second again, I think makes for a really nice play at 2,500. Who else are you looking at here?
Yeah, so Marcus Semien batting, probably second, 3K, like his upside, like that offense. I'm looking shortstop. I'm paying down tonight. GPPs, cash games, leagues, whatever you're playing, I'm paying down. I don't mind Johnny Peralta at 2.5K. Zach Kozar at 2.5K if he's batting second. I don't mind that at all. I just don't think you have to pay tonight. Ian Desmond, Matt Latos is not pitching well. Justin can tell you he's not a fan of Matt Latos. Ian Desmond got a home run last night. I have a feeling we see that Ian Desmond, it's going to turn around a little bit for him. He's making better plays in the field. Early in the season, he had zero confidence. He was missing routine ground balls. He made a couple web gems in the past week. I feel like his psyche, his confidence is turning around. So Desmond at 2.9K makes for a nice GPP option. But yeah, like you said, paying down. There's no reason to pay up.
Yeah, and to mention one more guy who should be batting second against the lefty, hopefully no more controversy this time, Mike Aviles. We know mashes lefties, gets a bad one tonight in Jason Vargas. I will likely be playing Mike Aviles in most of my cash games tonight as long as he's batting second.
Yeah, good call.
All right, another guy I want to go ahead and start cheap here in the outfield while we're talking about Indians players against bad lefties. Ryan Rayburn always flies under the radar, but the dude mashes lefties. He's $2,500 tonight. All he does is just get on base and hit the ball hard against lefties. He's probably going to be locked into my cash game lineup just because he's so cheap. He's a great value that helps you fit some big bets. At the top here in the outfield, I mean, Nelson Cruz has got to be your top play at $5,200. The guy is he's just too much right now, and I hope that it's all legit. I'm not saying anything's going on, but 14 home runs already. I mean, the dude, he's hitting home runs in almost 15 or 14% of his at-bats. He has 103 at-bats so far. So, I mean, Nelson Cruz on fire. I mean, I do like Garrett Richards tonight. I'm not necessarily picking on him, but Nelson Cruz, I mean, it's hard to pass up. And then you, of course, have Mike Trout against James Paxton. We know Mike Trout is great against lefties, and righties, and probably anyone else in the entire world. So he makes for a fine play. If the Arizona bats are going, you're going to want to look at the lefties. Corey Dickerson's going to be your top option there. Charlie Blackmon in play also. But a guy that I'm really looking at here that I like his price tag, despite a lefty-lefty matchup, is Michael Brantley. Really starting to heat up, $4,100. I like him a lot in tournaments tonight.
Yeah, like Michael Brantley, to go back to your Nelson Cruz, I bet if they let Jameis Winston play baseball, I bet Jameis Winston can strike out Nelson Cruz. Just saying.
Wow, that's bold. Those opinions are your own. I'm not buying that. Cruz will take him yard twice per pitch.
So since you took all my fun, good top plays that I like, I'm not going to reiterate everything you say because we pretty much have the same mind. But there's two of them, so I'm going to go value. David DeJesus. I mean, batting leadoff, 2,200 against Porcello. I like that. He's got righty-lefty matchup. 2,200 is too cheap for him as a leadoff hitter. He hits well. He's in his career, he's actually hit Porcello fairly well. And then also, Jeff Samardzija, I'm not impressed with him. I watched him pitch last week in the empty Baltimore game. He looked god-awful, like pitching home run derby, soft toss, whatever you want to call it. But if Anthony goes bats leadoff at 3K, I also like him. Especially if he's leadoff 3K, I mean, that's a great price tag for him. Lets you kind of get whoever you want elsewhere. So those are my cheap two value guys tonight.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Jock Peterson has home runs in 5 of his last 7 games. Not much for cash game play because he's not much of a multi-hit guy. Doesn't hit for great average, but he's showing off a ton of power right now. So he's certainly in play there. And I still want to pick on Ryan Vogelsong a bit. So Matt Kemp at 3,700 makes for a really interesting play. Obviously, we mentioned he's worse. Vogelsong, that is worse against lefties than righties. Not really any good lefties in the outfield here for the Padres at all. So obviously, that's kind of off the board. But George Springer, another guy for tournaments, kind of can do it all at $3,900. I like him. Outside of that, you also have Andrew McCutchen, who's still way too underpriced. He's not hitting the ball particularly well, but $3,800. One of these days, he's going to get it going, and it's going to be the start of the rest of his season. And I like him a lot tonight in tournaments as well.
Did you say AJ Pollock?
I did not say AJ Pollock.
Love AJ Pollock tonight. He flies under everyone's radar. He doesn't have the name associated with him quite yet. DK's got him at 4.8K. I really like AJ Pollock tonight. He's in a little bit of a dry spell, but he's also been playing the Dodgers, who obviously have some good pitching. He played at LA. He struggled in Colorado, but previous to that, he was just smashing the ball. I really like AJ Pollock tonight for his price tag if that game gets in, but there's so many options in the outfield tonight that I'm working all my positions elsewhere because I feel that there's less options because there's not 3 shortstops in a game. So I'm actually going to be I usually take my favorite outfielders first, but because of I don't know, I don't like the other positions tonight. I'm building to my outfield very last. And if it becomes 3 punts, it becomes 3 punts. If it becomes 3 studs, it's 3 studs. But I'm going to be divvying up those 3 outfielders very last.
Yeah. 2 more guys I'll mention before we get out of here. Denard Span against Matt Latos at $3,400. Latos allowing a 401 WOBA to lefties. Span is an on-base machine. And the one other guy I want to talk about here, now that I just lost him, Gregory Polanco at $3,300. Stealing bases, hitting for average, hitting for a little bit of power as well. If he's near the top of that lineup, I love him at $3,300 against Michael Lorenzen.
You got it.
That will do it for us. Find us on Twitter at dfcafe.com. Check out our content at dailyfantasycafe.com, and we'll see you tomorrow.